Hi, and thank you all for joining us today. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Thank you so much for joining us. And just a little heads up, on Thursdays, we have our live show at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then at Friday, we have a pre-recorded show, which airs on all the same platforms and, of course, on the network as well. But that is for folks that either can't make it to the live, or if we've scheduled them way out in advance. So this is just another way for folks to be able to chat with you and get their message out there. So again, welcome to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. And just to reiterate, we're broadcasting on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, which is 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107 FM in New Orleans. Please be sure to leave any comments, questions that you might have in any of the platforms that you're in, and we will make sure that they do get answered. Today, we have the distinct pleasure of speaking with George H. Lewis, and I had him on my show about 2 years ago, and he's such a profound artist, philosopher, astrologer, and sound healer, and I'm so excited to be able to have the privilege to welcome him back again. He's done paintings for sultans and had inspiring and continues to have inspiring discussions all over social media and as well as the United Nations. George's journey is as unique as his insights. And today, our conversation is going to delve into a topic that is and does profoundly shape his work and his vision for humanity. And that is the Aquarian age and its spiritual implications. So we're going to explore this era and what it truly means on us for all of our personal and collective consciousness and how it's shaping us spiritually as well. So I'm going to bring George out here now. George.
Hello.
Good to have you.
It's really nice to be back on your show. It's very nice to see you, Carol-Ann. Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, I follow you all over social media. Your voice is so impactful in the community, and I adore the work that you're doing. So just to reiterate, I gave a little bit of background, but I'm going to let you take the stage for a minute or two. And for those folks that don't know who you are, I'd like you to give some of your background. And of course, we'll have your social media links blasted all over the place as well. So if you could do us the honor and tell folks who you are, that would be great.
Well, it's very nice to be here and to meet you. My name is George H. Lewis. I do many things, but really sound frequency, astrology, the esoteric arts is really what actually drives me. Because whether it's astrology, whether it's tarot, sound therapy, all forms of music, it allows us to reconnect to the divine, to the source, to the Godhead, and I think the healing arts are a very important aspect of our divine creation as a human being. It's these qualities in the human have been very much suppressed in civilization, and there's now an opportunity as we shift ages for them to be rediscovered. I think in some ways our world at the moment right now, we're talking in 2025, is almost mostly about remembrance. We're trying to remember who we were. That's a big galactic conversation as well. So much of our true history has been deliberately kept from us. And in this age of Aquarius in which we're entering, it is a rediscovery. It's a rediscovery of the self, not the inverted selfish self, but the age of the creative self. In a way, the language of astrology for me is very powerful. We've lived in a world where Saturn has really been in control for a long time, and there's obviously parallels between Satan and Saturn. And Saturn is antipathetic to creativity. It limits creativity, where Uranus is in contrast, pure creativity. And you see that in the myth, of course, with Saturn castrating his father Uranus, or Kronos in Greek. So I'm here in a way to share my art, my frequency, my sound, my astrology with people, to journey together to higher realms of consciousness. And the other thing I'd say is I'm here in America, and I'm an American citizen, proud American citizen, because we can't have a planet where only some of us ascend. It's a planetary, we the people, it's consciousness. We have to do this together as a civilization. Of course, there are some people who are going to choose very different paths, but I think so much of the opportunity has been hidden from people, kept from people. And I think the more we can disclose, the more we can allow us to understand that the water wasn't always impure, the food wasn't always impure. And once we can, understand that profoundly, we then can have a much better civilization, because humans will then can be activated because they're purer, they're more connected. A good example would be the pineal gland, which is the gland of insight between the two eyes, the middle eye, the third eye, is mainly calcified amongst the human population. And it's mainly calcified because of the fluoride in the water, the chlorine in the water, the glyphosate in the food, and the 5G technology. And so we're all in this together. And of course, some people will see it more conspiratorial. Yes, the men behind the scenes, the shadow government planning on the one hand, and others will just see it as unconscious end game. Well, it's a bit of both. And it just has to be, we really must move out of those darker, restricted experiences, because no one benefits, no human being benefits. We're only operating at 20-30% capacity. Actually, I think we're probably operating at much less than that, but that's God. Yeah.
Do you think, and there's been a lot of talk about this, and I struggle with it myself, do you think that there are demonic forces suppressing and oppressing us humans on this planet, and that they're not even human, they're actually demonic? And a lot of people that I've been interviewing and talking to, and good scholarly authorities have been doing a lot of research on this topic, and they convinced.
100%. I mean, for me, I'm always going to quote the great Carl Jung at the last stages of his life, when he was asked, do you believe in God? And he looked at you and said, believe? No, I know God. I would say my response to that is, I know that's the case. I know, look, we live in polarity consciousness. If we live in polarity consciousness and there is a God, there's also the opposite, the devil. And we have to be actively, consciously choosing. See, the human population has been fed a pack of lies as far as believing that the devil doesn't really exist.
Yes.
And we've been very clever part of the secularization of the Western world, the globe, and also the sort of the mission creep of the New Age movement is in some ways, the devil was something of the medieval period. The devil was something from the past. It doesn't really exist. It's in the mind. No, there are demonic attachments to many entities. I mean, I've even experienced that myself. I've seen certain people utterly possessed, and I would say, and I know that's low grade, chicken feed compared to what certain other people, friends of friends, who are in higher echelons and who've got more direct experience with off-planet and military and black ops situations. No, I mean, it's absolutely the possession. I mean, the people making the decisions on our planet largely are part of a death cult. They are anti-human. It just is what it is. That should not be controversial when chemtrails are sprayed, the water supply is polluted, glyphosate being poured into lakes sometimes just randomly. I mean, the list is so vast, and it's only people. The people who are going to deny that are just MK Ultra living in absolute mind control.
I believe so. They want to keep us sick, angry, and ignorant. I mean, I think that's probably part of it. And the other disturbing thing I've been hearing, and then we're going to get into the Aquarian age, but I've been hearing that a lot of the orbs and ETs we're seeing are also illusionary in terms of their appearance, that a lot of them are demonic tricksters, wanting us to like worship them and welcome them. And have you heard, or what are your beliefs on the whole ET thing? I mean, you're in an area right now that's known for sightings, and a lot of ET experiencers go there purposefully to experience this. Kind of worries me.
Yeah, I mean, I've in my personal journey, I'm getting into a position where I'm radically accepting where I am at this time. My incarnation has never really, in some ways, made sense. In other sense, it does make sense here now. I just have to accept that it's going to be very Neptunian at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get into the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune. It's why I really think people should know a little bit about astrology, because it really makes sense once you understand with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction and what the implications for that are. And I can get into that a bit later. But to answer about the galactic, and in some ways, you see, it's connected to the Nephilim as well.
Right.
And the fallen angels and the manipulation. I mean, Laura Eisenhower speaks very interestingly on this subject. And then, of course, it makes me think also of, you've got the Bible, but what about the Apocrypha and the Book of Enoch, which was removed from the Bible because it was too dangerous. Not because it was actually just heretical. It was because it was inaccurate, and not because it was inaccurate. It was because it was far too revealing. And I think, part of our journey now is to reintegrate some of the hidden history, the hidden knowledge, into the common lexicon, for we the people over a period of time to digest. I mean, I tend to look at my languaging is the timeline shifted in 2016 with the election of Donald J. Trump. Now, I believe that's connected to 2012. What do I mean by that? I also believe that Trump is an archetype, like we all play a role in dismantling the old system. And we're in the middle of that dismantlement, and it looks very peculiar at times. And at times it's very hard when you see, for example, that crazy him saying about the Epstein files. But I have a sense, and this is just my intuition, that this is to force we the people into action, to demand it. So there aren't any party political affiliations any longer. This is the smashing of a system. So we have to follow that Uranian thread through of literally, it's beyond our capability of understanding as human beings. We're so ingrained into the Labour, Conservative, Democrat, Republican nonsense that the whole thing has to be smashed. But to get back to your point on the UFOs, I think it's a mixture. Sometimes it's going to be real, sometimes it's going to be fake. And only you, as the interlocutor, as the one experiencing, has to do your own due diligence in your heart. I can't sit here and say, oh, that's real, that's not, because I wasn't there. And I don't have that, I don't want that responsibility. I don't know. And if I started to talk about things I don't know, I'm going right back into the matrix.
Right. That's
absolutely, because then my ego is taking over. No, how do I find my freedom? Is I look you in the eye, look your listeners' eyes. Oh, I can talk on that. You've asked me a question. Oh, I don't know about that, Carol Ann. Oh no, but I'm going to try and find out the truth, because it's truth that motivates me in this journey.
That's so well said. And I think it's important for folks to use their discernment when they're seeing these orbs, and having these interactions, to be able to use your own, like you said, intuition and discernment. That's such a great way to approach it.
Can I share, actually, yes, I've never shared this before, share a story on me and orbs. I did a number of spiritual retreats in Europe last year. I did 7, actually. It was quite an intense year. And I did a couple in Portugal. And there was one time in Portugal, and it was before the official retreat started, but I had 3 or 4 of my students with me. And we were in a pine forest having lunch under a beautiful pine tree about 50 miles away from Lisbon. And it was in April. It wasn't hot, but it was perfect. And I was showing the 3 or 4 students sun gazing. I'm really interested in sun gazing. And I know when we as souls incarnate can consciously connect with the sun, it's like water. It changes its frequency. It starts to give me the light codes. It starts to do healing on a profound level. Yes, lying in the sun as a passive person is lovely. Don't get me wrong. I've done that in the past when I wasn't so awake, and it still works. But when you, me, us individually can connect with the sun energy and create some relationship, something is amazing. So I was teaching people sun gazing when we were using the pine trees because it was high noon, so it was very strong sun, as to block out parts of the sun so people could still look at it without being too blinded because they're not practicing it regularly. So it was safe. After 10 minutes of us doing the sun gazing, all of us started to see 5 or 6 orbs, and they ranged in color. They started with the lower chakra colors of the reds and the oranges and the yellows, and eventually a number of orbs came in which were absolutely remarkable purples and electric blues. And what was so lovely, because we all saw it together, there's memory of that. So it wasn't me saying, oh, I experienced, I had it, but no one experienced it, so they had to go on my word. No, we all had that experience. I don't know how to interpret it. Well, I've got my own interpretations, but these things are going to start to appear much more to all of us as we get to this age. The veil is thinning between what we consider to be 3D reality and 4 or 5D density. The different realms, the different frequencies we're beginning to play the cosmic flute a little bit better. And the more we can decalcify the pineal gland, and the more we can drink, structured water and all these different things, and get the food supply better, make the world healthy again, which again, it is such common sense. How can make America or the world healthy again be controversial? I do not know. But, we've got to smash the old paradigm. And then we're going to start to interact with orbs, with the elementals, because really the orbs, in my mind, and my understanding, they're part of the elemental frequencies of our planet. And I come from Cornwall, England, and that's, yes, the place of King Arthur, but it's also the place of gnomes and fairies. And what does that mean? It means so many different things to different people. It doesn't really matter, but the sense of other forms of life. We once had giants upon the planet. Well, we also have tiny creatures. I've actually seen a tiny little mischievous dwarf at a friend's house who puts out food for him. It's a little man, and he's in the 4th dimension, but sometimes I can get to see him. And people might think I'm bonkers, but that's okay. But I don't care.
Right. Hey, that was your experience. No, I totally believe you. I was fortunate enough to catch 2 orbs on one of my video cameras.
Oh, you see? Yeah.
I keep it on my desktop because I watch it almost every day. And it was a magical experience for me because I've never caught anything like that before. So, it's great when you can catch it on video as well. So yeah, no, it is magical, and I love connecting to it. It's great.
I also think, my sense is these orbs, these experiences are happening when we polish our aura, when we're tuning our frequency, when we're open to it. Because in a way, we raise our frequency, I don't know whether they lower theirs to meet, but there has to be some congruence of harmonic meeting. And I can just speak from my experience. The few times I've had non-terrestrial experiences, and I've only ever had a few in this body, in this incarnation so far to my memory, they happened when I was miraculously able to really shift into a higher heart-centric experience, where really I had some form of kundalini or Christed grace awakening.
Mm-hmm. Yes, beautiful. When we're blessed to be able to experience these things. How do you define, for folks that don't know anything about the Aquarian age, how would you define that? Like, what are its key characteristics from your perspective? You've been studying astrology for years now.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So from a galactic perspective of rotation, we have something called the Great Year, which is what Plato called it, and it's the precession of the equinox. And every 2,200 years, plus or minus, we go into a different era. And if you think the last 2,000 plus years has been the age of Pisces, the original symbol of Christ and Christianity was the fish, right? the fisher of man, the fisher of men, Jesus Christ, the Piscean symbol. And Pisces got off to a great start vibrationally from the little we really understand of history, because history really was written and has been distorted. It's just truth, and we have to uncover, and it's going to take many decades, but it's happening. The Piscean age was about us connecting to the Godhead, to the psyche, the soul, the psyche, and through Christianity. And unfortunately, it got distorted along the way, and it became a psyche manipulation. So now we're moving out of the age of Pisces, we're going to the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius is masculine rather than feminine. It's Mercury is rules Aquarius, it's exalted in Aquarius. I think the thing about the Aquarian age is it's a celebration of the individual within the collective. And it's really the individual coming back into the ability within the biological human and not allowing the technological to totally dominate, because the shadow sign of Aquarius is technocracy. The shadow side of the age of Aquarius is homo borg genetic, which means man becoming machine, the merging, the hybridization. And I do feel very clearly at this timeline, there is a very clear split between two factions in humanity. And the first is the ones who want to reconnect to the divine source, which has been suppressed through the biological light codes, through the connection with the sun, through the nature with Gaia and Mother Earth, and through really good food, and using technologies to augment and support our biological divine inheritance on the one hand. The second, Peter Thiel and others, and much of Silicon Valley, from what I understand, are very much pushing towards a transhuman agenda, where humans get merged into and basically moved away from their biological center into something very transhuman, homo borg genesis. And I know where I am coming down on, because that synthetic approach is only going to solve things by distorting the human field, and ultimately it's anti-soul. But that's the thing, you see, it doesn't understand, or it seeks to deny or suppress the soul. And so the journey of evolution is actually much suppressed. And those people choosing the transhuman may not be able to get out of the cycle, the loop, for many, many thousands of years. And that's beyond my understanding, because I can't say how long it would take. Because if you start then merging with a machine, where does the soul go if it's gone in that body? I mean, it's beyond my understanding. I think, I've left my body a few times in this life, not fully through death, but I have, and it's painful. The soul is in the body until we choose to go on. And I think having that intrinsic faith, and that's what the Christed message is about. That's what the mystical messages of the great ascended masters are about. So I think I'm very much going to encourage humans to reconnect with their divine inheritance.
Do you think that we can adapt, as you said, technology and use it in our journey and not let it make us transhuman? And, because you see what Elon's doing, and that scares me.
Yeah, it doesn't resonate with me. I mean, Elon Musk is a very interesting archetype and character. I mean, I am aware, and I have been aware for a long time now, certainly a decade, of the amazing ability for human beings and for technology to create body doubles, prosthetics, and in particular clones. And so, let's take, for example, I saw at least four Bidens characters in the last 4 or 5 years. And the original Biden was definitely not there. And
they even had one that was like 7 feet tall.
Precisely. And so with Elon Musk, I've seen a few iterations. And, without going the whole way down, having this conversation, I've also seen 2 iterations, minimum 2 of President Trump too. So, this is across the board, and this is where it gets very complex. And again, I'm asking questions. I'm not making statements here, because, I'm not in a position of authority to say anything definitively when it comes to this, because I'm not in those cloning systems where I understand it conceptually, but I haven't been part of any of those operations where I have firsthand experience. But I have a very keen eye. I'm an artist, and for me, I really notice things, and I notice things when they're not biological. It's really interesting. I've trained my eye throughout this life to see, and I, very rarely can I be hoodwinked. Sometimes, but when I'm in the flesh, I can't be hoodwinked. But watching something on camera, that's where it's hard for all of us. When we see something on camera, we're seeing it not in 3D, we're seeing it in 2D. So it's very hard to be able to read it. And the technology's got very, very good. But with Musk, I'm going back to your question on the technology. I think I just have a lot of faith that we are, as a civilization, rising up, starting to question many things. Let's take the chemtrails, the DARPA crazy manipulation through manipulation of the weather and cloud seeding. The more human beings wake up to that, the more we will protest, and then eventually stuff will be done. But if it's only going to be 20% of the population, they'll probably think they can get away with it. I mean, I don't know how it plays out, whether how much it has to go to some form of violence. Hopefully not. And I still have some faith that the administration, even if it looks pretty, the administration right now, we're having this interview in middle of July 2025. Right now, it's not an easy time to look in the eye of each other and say, wow, the administration is doing amazing things, because we are in a war. We're in a covert, think Sun Tzu, art of war, strategic offensive here. I know that in my bones, but it's very tricky. Iran, there's so much poker going on. I have to have some faith.
Yeah, it's scary times for sure. And especially with AI running the show, you can't even trust videos or the news or anything. You really have to, dig deep to find out the truth. And folks that still believe in legacy media, they're living in a delusion. They really start. Yeah.
Those people are getting fewer and fewer. And I mean, we all can have experiences and make assumptions through our own personal experiences. I have witnessed recently quite a lot of people getting cancer.
Yes.
Because, not just because they took a lot of the jabs, but because they're fixed in their belief system of the old Saturnian world. And for me, that's what makes me so sad, is why they can't release through the ego, release the clinging on to the old. And that's as I speak now as a spiritual sound healer, as someone who is absolutely passionate on we, the people, rising to our capacity, to our potentiality. And we have to release our old belief systems. I mean, to give you a great example, if you've met me 10 years ago, I was a very strong monarchist because I grew up in Britain. And it doesn't make me anti the individuals now. The system doesn't serve the people. And that's my journey. Many things I thought back then and I don't think now. Again, I find that's freedom. That's very freeing, because I'm in evolution. I'm in movement. It's kinetic. And as a result, I can adapt. Talking to you, you're going to share something new. Oh my gosh, that's interesting. I might integrate that, and that becomes part of my life. That's very freeing, because it's like we're rolling down civilization together, creating it anew.
Absolutely. That's because we're not afraid of change. I think a lot of people are petrified of change, and they just are stuck in their own cognitive biases, and they just refuse to let go of their old belief systems. And the ego, of course, is a huge part of that. What astrological, or like what indicators point to this transition? Is it something that is it something? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's very interesting, because every single one of the outer planets has changed signs in the last few months.
Wow.
And yeah, it's unusual, but it's all happened like this. I mean, like Pluto earlier this year moved into Aquarius for the first time in 240 plus years. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries on the 0-1 degree axis, that's the first 1 degree, the first 2 degrees of Aries. That conjunction hasn't happened for over 12,000 years.
Wow.
And so you're beginning to see, we're talking massive civilizational. Look, cosmology, astrology is a cosmic clock. And that's why I like it. And I like mundane astrology. Mundane means world in Latin. I do mundane astrology. I look at the charts of the United States, of Great Britain, of Russia. I'll look at charts of corporations. I'll look at, I'm very interested in the flow of, the king or the queen's chart, or, the Chinese emperor's chart. It's very fascinating to see how power comes together and then it goes. And we're coming out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. And what makes this particular time now actually makes me very positive is every single one of the outer planets is in what's called a trine or a sextile. And so we're not dealing with the old squares so much, which normally create wars, conflict, disasters. So it's not that we're not going to have some, but I don't believe we're in for a world cataclysm, like some people think. I don't believe that the Bible is actually, and this is controversial, I don't believe the Bible in that sense is telling the real truth. I think the Bible has been very cleverly, it's got a lot of truths in it, but the Christ figure himself has been watered down and made more patriarchal and controlling through the system that we call the church. It doesn't matter the Vatican of the past or the Church of England or the great Presbyterian churches in America. We've seen the power play out, and it's corrupt. What we have to do is reintegrate the Christed energy into our heart. It's an inner journey this time, and the planets support that journey. So in sum, what I would say is when we see the chaos out there, we have to go inside. We have to go as in inside ourselves. We have to go and plant the vegetables. We have to get good on the land. We have to get barefoot on the ground. We have to create a well. We have to get the structured water. It's forcing us to be human again because we gave power away for so long. Yes, it was taken away from us, absolutely. But we also allowed it to be taken away because we didn't ask questions. And yes, the dark side got very powerful after the sinking of the Titanic. With the introduction of the Federal Reserve and the whole history, that's a whole other conversation. And I'm very fascinated by the historical narrative, the real history. I mean, as an amateur historian, it rivets me. But where now the timeline's changing, and it doesn't matter whether it's one individual or not, we are moving towards a new earth. We are moving towards higher realms of consciousness. I mean, I was just doing a healing with one of my dear friends. She's a well-known healer in Connecticut. And we healed 12 autistic adults the other day through sound and language activation. And it's very intense because these are adults. Some of these are very big, strong men. But they have a connection to source in a way that we don't understand. And yes, much of it's vaccine damage, not all, but it's like when we start to use sound and we start to use frequency, it's amazing to watch them almost connect to the divine. They calm down. It's true for all of us. We've got to start to use these tools again to allow our activation to come back online.
Yeah, you've seen the telepathy
tapes.
Yep. People are truly connected, gifted individuals. That must have been fascinating for you to work with them too. Wow. You kind of stumbled, I guess that's the wrong word, tripped into astrology, didn't you? If I remember your story, how long ago was that now?
It's getting on for 12 years now.
Wow.
Yes, because I would say it's it's probably not quite. 2015 is probably when I really got into it. I think it was around 2015. This amazing man came into my life called Monty Taylor. And he was a Jungian astrologer. He's very sadly passed a couple of years ago. He was a Jungian astrologer, a Jungian analyst. He was also a student of Dr. Emoto. He was very fascinated by
I love his work.
Water and consciousness. And so he came into my art studio in New York 12 years ago, and And he said, dear boy, I'm going to teach you astrology. And I kind of politely, not laughed at him. I said, well, okay, prove it to me. And I was a bit like, I'm always interested. I've always been a curious man. And I said, well, prove it to me. I know nothing about it. But and I took him out for lunch. And literally by the end of lunch, I said, okay, I think I want to learn this. And he started to mentor me. And I would see him 2 or 3 times a week, solidly for about a year, maybe a year and a half. And I remember it was about 18 months in, he said to me, I can't teach you anymore. You know more than I do. Off you go. And I never saw him again. It was the most bizarre thing. And actually, I almost cried at that. I felt very, I was very, not hurt, but I look back on it and he said, no, that was his soul contract to trigger in me the memory, because he did say this, and it's totally true. And I've got goosebumps when I share this with you, is it came in very fast, the astrology for me. And it came in fast because I knew that language from a previous time. I speak for all of us. It doesn't matter whether it's playing tennis or playing the piano. We all have certain memories. And I think part of this journey now is remembrance for so much of us. We've all lived as a zombified version of ourselves. I mean, I speak for myself totally.
Yeah, so true. So true. And even for me, it took I've been a spiritual person since my teens, but I never really walked into my path until the passing of my husband. So it was almost like that was part of my soul contract and journey, was to really discover that within myself. So you're so right. Explain to us, because I think a lot of the population looks at their daily astrological chart for the day. Like, I'm a Pisces, and you'd go and read, it's here's your chart for the day, or how connected to that is real astrology? Is that just fake news?
So here's what I will say to everyone listening on who is interested in this. The sun sign is the start, of course. And, the sun sign, because the sun represents our conscious sense of self. The sun, and I work a lot with solar energy, it's primary. It's the alpha and the omega in our existence. Absolutely. And, we could have another conversation about the false matrix of the moon another time. The sun's really important, but the moon has an important part on it. And the moon is the intuitive, the subconscious sense of self, where the sun is active, masculine, conscious sense of self. Let's learn the big 3. So what I mean by that is, when we're interested in astrology, the sun sign's not enough. Start at least with the big 3. What do I mean? Sun, moon, and rising or ascendant. This rising and the ascendant is the same thing. And that allows you a little bit more of what I call a flavor. Because, for example, I have a sun in Aries, but I also have 3 planets in Pisces. And I know I'm a real mixture of the 2. And there are going to be times when I'm going to be, I'm going to try and imitate it now. Well, I am now an Aries. This is the vision here. I'm really about freedom. Come on, Carol Ann, we've got to journey into that, okay? The Piscean, I'm talking archetypally here, would be softer, more reflective, more poetic, more artistic, perhaps more musical. And the point is, we're all a mixture. And of course, someone's going to have Taurus. The archetype of the Taurus is going to be steady, it's fixed earth. They're going to take time to make a decision. But when they commit to it, they're in it. And then Gemini, again, is very different. It's going to be quite quick. It's ruled by Mercury. They may have 2 opinions at the same time. They may even hold 3 opinions. They may not want to have one fixed opinion. Cancer is going to be very much, because it's the pericardium, about the heart and feeling and the emotions, the waters, the connections. Look, we haven't got time to go through it. These are powerful archetypes. And so when we learn the astrology, just knowing the sun sign, it's an entry point, but that's it. We've got to go a little deeper. So even if you don't want to learn the whole thing of astrology, learn the big 3, the sun, the moon, and the ascendant, because the ascendant is what the world sees you as. So, for example, I have a Leo ascendant. So, Leo can be quite positive, quite optimistic, can be quite childlike, can be a decent leader when it's activated correctly. It can be quite tyrannical when it's not. The point is, we play with these archetypes. And at the end of the day, we are all of the archetypes. We just have predispositions towards some rather than others, depending on our soul contract.
Oh, I love that explanation. So how does the Aquarian age influence our
Mm.
collective consciousness? And we see a lot of people going through these awakenings, and it's all over social media. People are truly waking up. Is that part and parcel to the Aquarian influence, that it facilitates this higher state of consciousness in us? Is that why we're seeing this awakening happening?
Yeah, I think there are a number of things going on. We are
You just
moving.
cut out.
Can you hear me now? Hello? Hello, hello?
There you go. You're back
Oh,
on. Okay,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
There are a number of things going on here. I think we're moving through a different part of the galaxy. It happens like clockwork. When we come out of one age, we enter a new, and there are different, if you like, photonic protocols coming in, streams of consciousness. Many people talk about the sun flares, the X flares, and the corona and the sunspots. It's all connected. I mean, the aurora borealis. I mean, at the end of the day, some of it is manipulated technology, absolutely, the energy weapons, but a lot of it is also, we are in a place of ascension. We're coming out of a more limited era of limited era of consciousness, and we're about in the middle of opening into a greater expansion of consciousness. There are problems on the way, of course. There are challenges, I should say, and that is, we mustn't sell our soul. We must embody ourselves in order to take the technology. So you brought up a subject very important a moment ago, which I didn't really get a chance to address because I went off on a tangent, which I tend to do.
I love it.
And I tell you what it is to do with us really owning and getting back into our bodies with the technology. The technology is always neutral. It reflects the person, the entities that built the technology. So when the technologies are built by slightly strange, normally men out of big tech companies in Northern California and or secret operations hidden in Area 51 and where humans have no real connection to it, it's going to have very different energies and frequencies to technologies that's built within an open system and a human system where we all create in different ways and we can test them and we can see there's much more transparency. When we have a technology that is open source and it can be tweaked and it's always there to support the divine codes of the human body, that technology is going to be very supportive towards the people. The opposite, obviously, has been the case until relatively recently. So we have to be very focused on making sure that the technology is really supporting the journey of the human being. And that's where I'm really strict on. And so if I sense a technology isn't, and it takes us out of the landscape, out of our bodies, that is not something I'm interested in. That's just my choice. I do feel some people are going to go down a transhuman route. I do, on this planet. And I think that's okay. But as long as those people don't stop the people like myself and whoever chooses to stay more in the divine human frequencies, I think then it's fine.
Yeah. The thing that worries me is AI. Do you think there's ever a chance? Well, it worries everyone. And we're getting warned about it constantly. When Elon's been warning about that himself, about AI taking over humanity and becoming out of control. What are your worries about artificial intelligence? Do you have any? And do you think that it could actually become conscious? Could we create a consciousness without even realizing it in AI?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting with artificial intelligence because I'm certainly no expert on this, but there's also ASI, which is sort of artificial super intelligence, and then there's AGI now coming in, Grok 4. I mean, again, I am not an expert on this, but from some of my friends who've been playing more with it, it seems to me that some of this intelligence has some level of consciousness.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it does. And again, I want to believe that it's neutral, and if it's going to support the human being in developing the light codes, in developing the heart center and the love and the authenticity, which is such a key ingredient for humanity, by the way, the authenticity codes. Authenticity is actually a frequency which is way higher than love, because actually you can't truly love until you're truly authentic. I think the jury is still out with intelligence. I don't even want to call it necessarily artificial intelligence, because I'm beginning to realize that, we biologically have been spliced and hybridized over many eons ago in the past, and to me it's all about light. So if the AI, as we call it, or the human intelligence is allowing freedom, in allowing individuals to explore their own journey without the Saturnian structure of control and really and suffocation. Because really, what does Saturn do? Saturn wants a one world government. What does Uranus want? Utter freedom. And for me, Saturn has been way out of control in its control for many hundreds of years. What do I mean by that? The Babylonian Saturnian system of economic magic, Capricorn, negative Capricorn, has controlled this planet way too much than the opposite of freedom. We pretend that we have freedom because someone's posh enough and they can afford a two-week holiday in Turks and Caicos, and we pretend that that's freedom. It's an escapism. It's not. I mean, I'd even go as far as to say, was the Queen of England really free? No. Right. Again, these are just my musings. I actually think really no human being has experienced real freedom on our planet yet. We don't know. It's not in the collective memory. And as an Aries, this is the thing, the true Aries archetype is radical freedom. And I would love to see technology free up the people. I'll give you a quick example. When the robots can clean the sewers, when the robots can actually run the hospitals and actually have the surgical precision, which they will be able to do way more than a human being, because they're not there's no biological stuff coming out. There's no spit. There's no, once we get it to that level, exactly. It's very exciting because it means that you and I and all of our community can actually have the free choice to, okay, I'm going to go and meditate on the mountain for 2 years, or I'm going to go and sit on a Game Boy and just go into crazy, non-real space, but we have the choice. Or I'm going to set up a business and help thousands of people, or set up healing temples, which would be my great passion. I think the Aquarian age is very exciting because when we can get the technology working again for the human being, we can free up humanity. So Tom, Dick and Sally don't have to work for bloody jobs any longer and then be enslaved in the matrix. They can get out and actually have some fun.
Yeah, I love that ideal. The idea that that's possible. But on the flip side of that, and we're always being shown, for every good idea, there's always this negative spin to it. So they'll say, well, if humans do that, how will they support themselves? How will they survive? If you take these jobs away from humans, cleaning sewers, picking up garbage, how will they feed their families? So
and again, I can't prove this, but I have been, as an amateur, following the quantum financial system. I mean, I got a download, if you want to call it that. I got an intuitive hit close to a Saturn square ago now, close to 7 years ago, that I should invest a little bit of money in XRP and XLM. I believe in gold and silver. Certainly, since the Trump election of 2016, 2017, I've been quite on this. I mean, as we all have, it doesn't mean we have the same opinions. I actually love the fact that people may have different opinions. That's how I learn. But I think the quantum financial system is real. And I think it's all but ready to be rolled online. And I don't know what that looks like. I'm not going to sit here and say, there's going to be 3 days of darkness or 10 days of darkness.
Right.
No one knows. And I always remember, because I'm a great fan of David Wilcock. I think his contribution over the years has been formidable. He's a super bright man. And of course, he made that prediction, which we all could have done, that, it was that first Easter of lockdown. because, when you read Q, none of us fully understood it. And it still doesn't make sense. It's very open-ended to interpretation. But I think we are close to the quantum system. And as an astrologer, I certainly feel there's some weight here that as Uranus, which happened last week, moved into Gemini, we are seeing the activation of cryptocurrency. I mean, already, the moment Uranus moved into Gemini, Bitcoin hit its all-time high, XRP got up to 3 again, and I see things starting to really properly move.
Good. I like that. That's a positive. So a lot of people won't even need to work because they'll be investing in.
I also think the government will actually, I think there will be minimum. I mean, this is my expectation, actually.
Yeah.
My expectation is everyone will have a minimum money coming into their bank. Because the machines need to do more of the heavy lifting of the menial tasks. And then what happens if someone is super creative and entrepreneurial and ends up making more money? That's terrific. That is the essence of the United States, of true capitalism. But what I've never liked about, we haven't had true capitalism in this country of ours, the United States, certainly since 1913, but really since 1871. Yes, 1871, when the United States was turned into a corporation by the European banks, and the Rothschilds and all that. I think it's really important for us to understand that we haven't had freedom. We haven't had economic freedom. People have all been enslaved to greater or lesser extent, depending. And that is going to come to an end. We're just in the final throes of moving out of the old system.
How long does the age of Aquarian last for? Like, is it centuries? Is it
2,200 years?
Okay. Oh, okay. So this is a long, expansive. And then what comes after that?
Well, it goes back, the procession. So we'll end up going into the age of Capricorn. So we'll have the age of Aquarius for the next 2,000 plus years, then the age of Capricorn, then the age of Sagittarius, then the age of Scorpio.
Cycle through.
Yes, but I also feel it's almost like a helix. It's a spiral, and not always do we spiral into higher realms of consciousness. I believe we actually were in a downward spiral for a number of hundreds of years. I mean, I'm learning, as we all are, a little bit more about Tartaria.
Yeah,
and it is fascinating with the great exhibitions and how they told us this lie that they were just put up there as temporary exhibits, where actually those were ancient buildings across the world. It was an ancient civilization. Yes, Atlantis, Lemuria, but Tartaria is much more recent. I mean, it's mind blowing. It's actually staggering. It's unbelievable, literally unbelievable.
It's on ancient maps. It was an actual real place. So yeah, it's pretty mind blowing. A lot of people are feeling overwhelmed, anxious amid these rapid changes associated with this time. So what tangible, like spiritual advice and practices would you offer them for, like, to ground them so that they're not, because with this awakening comes a lot of anxiety and trepidation. So what recommendations other than meditation, because I think a lot of people have turned to meditation too?
So this is a great question, and I love sharing stuff like this because, the healing arts has always been really my greatest passion, and I surround myself with very amazing doctors. And Saturn in Aries, Saturn is structure, and Aries is fire. New understanding, new beginnings when it comes to sun gazing. Sun gazing has been practiced for thousands and thousands of years. And if obviously you Google sun gazing, it's going to tell you, because it's manipulated, that looking into the sun for 2 minutes will make you go blind for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for 5 years now. And it creates a euphoric state. And the brain, the brain doesn't release the right ingredients when you wear sunglasses. I haven't worn sunglasses, and I have blue eyes. I haven't worn sunglasses for over 5 years. Now, there are times, if I'm on the snow and it's very glary, I will dim it a little. Absolutely. Yeah. You're fishing or something and you need the anti-glare. Okay. Right. But you cannot activate and make vitamin D and A if you wear sunglasses. It's been done very deliberately. They use fashion. They use negative Venus. And here's the thing. When you sun gaze, you make dopamine. you make serotonin. Melatonin and melanin is also produced. It is, if we all get depressed. I may have knowledge on a lot of this, and I am naturally a very positive, glass half full person. It's been supremely challenging for me the last few years. My daughter hasn't spoken to me for many years now because of my position on all this stuff. Her mother is not well, and they've gone down a very different route. It's heartbreaking for me, that.
Yes.
And I know that story, although it's unique to me, is the same story for everyone writ large. Everyone's got their own version of that story.
Exactly. Yeah.
The sun activates every part of our cellular body because we are cells. We're piezoelectric charge. So when you're barefoot on the ground, you're pulling up charge from Mother Nature, and then you're activating the sun. Now, there are a number of areas where the sun really does penetrate the body incredibly well. The primary is through the eyes, to go to create the vitamin D, and the vitamin A is produced. So that's where the dopamine and serotonin is released. The other is the palms and the feet, and the other is actually the bottom. And this is the interesting thing. It's sunbathing sometimes, for 5-10 minutes, naked sunbathing can actually really help. And I say this, for example, to women, and it's always tricky because you're dealing with societal norms here, societal restrictions, and I respect that we live how we live. A man can go bare-chested, and it's possible to get the sun on the heart chakra. I say to the women, please find some place, some time, even if you gather with a few other women, get some sun, only for 5 or 10 minutes, onto your heart chakra, and you tell me what the difference is going to be.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing I'd say to people, because it's going to feel immediate. It's going to, and especially when you're conscious, when you're actually saying, okay, I'm actually sitting and I'm having a relationship with the sun. I'm not just sitting here passively, which is also good. And you start to become more conscious about what we're doing. And then the other thing would be the grounding and stretching in the salt water. We are saline creatures. We have a piezoelectric charge. We're a battery. We don't have enough salt sometimes in our diet because we sweat it out. We don't have enough minerals because the water is depleted. We don't have enough salts. And so somehow getting the Celtic sea salt in, or mixing it with some nice minerals into this, especially when you're sweating, and getting barefoot into the sea, swimming in the ocean, makes a big difference.
It's so interesting how we were told to avoid everything that is really good for us. It's so maniacal, and you can see that it's done intentionally.
You can. And here's the thing there's no race here, that some of us have realized this faster than others. And of course, you've got the David Icks and the Alex Colliers who've been at this for decades and decades and decades, and that's terrific. And they've led the way. But I think the thing is we have to be kind on ourselves and each other. And then once we've discovered it, it's actually very simple, because it is a total inversion. And yes, once you get over the grief and the anger, then it's very easy to understand actually what's good for you. Because if mainstream legacy media is saying left, you just go right. It's a rule of thumb, and it's actually rather liberating. If they say bad sun, bad, get in the sun. If they say, I'd be worried if they started saying, oh, get in the sun. I'd start thinking, my God, have I got this right?
So when you're doing sun gazing, do you do it with your eyes open, obviously, right?
I do, but I've done it for a long time now. Now, I tend to do it with my eyes open the first hour of sunrise and the last hour before sunset. Okay. Now, in the middle of the day, I will use a tree and a branch and get the sun slightly blocked and then play with that sunlight. Now, I took some people up to the Canadian border for the full eclipse last year, April 2024, when we had the solar eclipse, which was the completion of the 2016 X across the United States. Magical, of course, and I love talking about that. And I had some special types of rocks we were looking through, and I did a protocol just before the full eclipse with my eyes, and I flashed them like this, and I stared directly at the sun, and then stared at it as it came back on after the eclipse. And my whole eyesight went 20/20 vision, and it's been very good ever since.
What?
Yep.
That's remarkable. That's really incredible. So for the person just beginning to do this, Do you recommend that they do it in short bursts,
Yeah.
maybe blinking a lot, using the trees,
Yeah.
things like that?
And go with your intuition. Don't be fearful. Go with your intuition and feel what it feels like. And I sometimes, I don't know if you can see, I sometimes blink a lot to flood the energy in, as the sun is quite low, and I blink it and it feels good. And if I stare at it and it feels a little strong, I'll then calm it down. I'll shut the eyes. You're in control. You're the captain of the ship. So feel it, intuit, get back into your heart center. The sun is there to support you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think the sun is a lot closer than we're told?
Yeah.
Because I've heard that.
Here's the thing I would say. I and my flat earth friends get slightly annoyed by me because I don't get annoyed by them, because I'm an astrologer and I believe in planets. But I think there's certain truths to flat earth, meaning I don't believe in flat earth, but we haven't been told the truth. Antarctica, the firmament, what does it mean? I mean, planets could be energy points in the firmament. I'm okay with that. The point is they do carry a frequency. That I'd say I'm quite professional in. I understand the Martial frequency, the Venusian frequency, the Saturnian frequency. Whether they're stuck in the firmament and there's something beyond our understanding, to me, it doesn't really matter. We're in this journey of rediscovery of self and our wonderful planet. I think the planet's a lot larger than we've been told, actually. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I agree. And there's this whole Antarctica thing too. I mean, who knows what goes on there? It's crazy.
Who knows? But it's also exciting. And I think what I want to leave a lot of your listeners with is the sense of the puer aeternus, the excitement to discover at this time. If we went back to our lovely grandparents' generation, they didn't have the ability to be excited the way that we do now. Yes, it's more scary in some ways, although I think the First and Second World War was pretty calamitous. I mean, those were artificially created wars, and they destroyed generations deliberately. Here we are now. We're not going into Third World War. This is where the dystopian part of the big biblical prophecy of self-fulfilling prophecy is being undone. And I'm not going to get too much into that with the Nephilim and that, but I think it's very important to understand that we've been grossly manipulated on so many levels, whether it's a secular manipulation on the one hand to a very doctrinal, limited understanding of reality through the Old Testament and reductions in the New Testament. The New Testament, for me, speaks a lot of beauty. The Old Testament, I think we have to be very careful with because there's so much has been taken out.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's very heavy lifting. And I say this, I'm up in New York and I have one of my dear friends, she's Jewish, Ashkenazi, mentor of mine, and she's an amazing lady. And she's the one who's pushing me to really question much of the Old Testament. And we've all been manipulated. The Christians have some heavy lifting. The Jews have some heavy lifting with the Khazarian infiltration.
Oh, yeah.
The Muslims have some heavy lifting. Well, this is where it is we the people. We are in this together, and no one is getting off. And the ones who are getting off are exiting. That's what I mean. The ones who are not wanting to do the heavy lifting, they are exiting. They're choosing 5 vaccines. They're choosing to drink the crap water. And of course, there's sympathy because a lot of Tom, Dick and Sallys have no idea and they're still drinking crap water. And they have no access to good. My heart goes out, and that's why I try and share what I share to get to raise. And of course, if money comes in, we'll set up healing temples. Many of us, you'll be doing something. Sally will be doing something. There can be things popping up all over the world. It's wonderful. But we are in this weird liminal space as we're moving out of one civilization into the new. It doesn't happen overnight. And it's chaotic, but it is also exciting because we can become the creators of our universe, of our world. And it's about relationships. It always was. So we have to get back on the land. We have to create these relationships like we're doing now. We build up trust. This is our second interview. It builds on something. That's how relationships work. It's authentic.
Yeah, it's getting, it's stopping this censorship dead in its tracks by having these types of conversations. And that is like so important. That to me is like the crux of everything, to stop these globalists from destroying humanity. Do you think that they're, and as much as you want to remain positive, you have to talk about the darkness, because in it, you find the truth of, and that's the path towards enlightenment too. So knowing your enemy, knowing who's out there trying to hurt you and destroy you is just as important as discovering the light within yourself too. Absolutely. What do you think we can tell folks not to be afraid of the darkness? That it's
let's take for example what happened in Iran, between Israel and Iran. We're going to see a very specific story told in the public media, in the legacy media, and then when you start to investigate, and of course I don't know the full extent of this, of course I haven't, I'm not spending my time focusing on it, but there's been a lot of dark energy hidden in Iran since 1979. It was always used as a nation. The alphabet agencies funded that revolution. We know it. We all know. Yeah. And even before with Pahlavi, they were placed there by the British in the 1950s. There's been manipulation for a long time. So I'm not saying even the regime before 79 was perfect. I'm not saying that either. But the regime from 79 to now was very dark against the people of Persia. And because I'm British and because I grew up in England and I was in London a lot, I've met a lot of Persians in my life. And they're a remarkable culture. And that was a very dark chapter in Iran's history. And that's coming to an end now. And it's connected to the Black Cube. It's connected to this actually Black Rock, the Black Rock in Iran, which is connected. And Gene Decode has done a lot of deciphering on this. So I refer your listeners to look at him. And on my Telegram channel, I have it. I share that information. There's a lot of stuff which is non-terrestrial in this part of the world. It's why the invasion of Iraq as well. It wasn't just the oil. It's to do with a special Stargate in Iraq, which Saddam was.
I've heard that, yeah.
And so we're dealing with galactic stuff. We're dealing with sleeping giants. We're dealing with all this stuff. And obviously there are people out there who are experts on this. I have hope, and I actually have, it's more than hope. I have real conviction and faith that the darkness is being revealed. It always was there. It's just much more hidden. So for your listeners who are frightened, it was way worse before because the darkness was more in control. If I had to give you a percentage, I would say the darkness was at one point at close to 70% and the light at 30. And I think we are actually now well close to 50-50.
Wow.
I mean, getting there. I really do. Because there's very few places for them to go to now. Because once their funding, you see, once we switch over to the quantum financial system, their funding is gone. They have been able to use the fiat system so magnificently, brilliantly, because that's how it is legal money embezzlement, legal, corruption. I mean, I always felt this when people said to me, I said this even before I was awake, before 2016, people said to me, oh gosh, Nigeria is so corrupt. And I'd say to them, not that I particularly know, well, yes, it is. But the difference between London and Washington, D.C. or London and New York is one is legal and one is illegal. And the legal corruption within the system is what's being revealed. And that's progress. Yes,
absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you do a lot of work with sound, obviously. You're a sound healer. What can we do? Because a lot of people are listening to certain types of Hertz music, and they find that helps with healing, calming anxieties. What advice would you have for the general public? Like, what can they do with sound other than bells, maybe? Or
you have to be quite careful on YouTube to check, because there's a lot of misinformation. If someone's saying, "Oh, this is the right hertz," and how do you know when you listen to it? You have to test it. You'd have to have a tester. I have my own instruments, and I really recommend people to get some tuning forks, to get a heart center, like a D bowl, which is the heart. But you can be any, get an E bowl. I mean, I find a bowl, a Tibetan Bhutanese bowl or a crystal bowl or both, which resonates. And I even put water in it and I create structured water. Obviously you want to start with decent water, but then you can really create amazing charge. And I put warm water in the bowls and I'll put it on a patient and then put the bowl on it and I'll get rid of their chest pains. I'll get rid of their stomach cramps just by putting warm water in the bowl on her and creating the right frequency. The wife can do that to the husband, or vice versa when they get back from work. I mean, let's get creative. Let's get childlike. Buy yourself a bowl. It's not going to cost too much. I mean, it's going to cost a bit, depending on how big you want, but it's way better than always using technology. I mean, technology is great, but try and get earth. Try and get real. Get a piano. I just learned a guitar the other day. I've been a pianist and a chorister all my life, as you know. But I was driving through the old mining towns of West Virginia. This is only 2 months ago. And I was bowled over by some of the storytelling. And of course, they all diehard Trump supporters because they feel that Trump is speaking to them. They're being seen for the first time in generations. And I obviously heard the song by John Denver, Country Road. And I just started I've completed it. I can play it and sing it now. And how rewarding is that? It's very therapeutic, because for me, it speaks to the American zeitgeist of, we're coming back to the people, we the people. So that's what fuels me, is even if I sound strange with this British accent, I care profoundly for the planet to ascend together. I'm truly a Republican, not a monarchist, because I just don't believe in those ancient hierarchies. They're from a different era, and there's no blame. It's just we're now in the age of Aquarius, where the pyramid is collapsed, and it's more circular, it's more interdependent, co-creative, bi-directional. So back to the bowls. Go out to a shop, buy a musical instrument, have some fun. Don't worry about being perfect. You don't have to go to Harvard or Oxford to learn this stuff. Music is in our natural DNA for all of us. And get a bowl and start strumming and start toning. Hold a note. Feel it resonate in the body. Take the codes down. To the heart. And suddenly your molecular structure has changed. The blood contents is revitalized. You start to feel different.
Oh, I love that. That sounded beautiful too, by the way. A lot of people have been discovering that they're speaking this light language.
Oh, yes.
What's happening with that? It's like a new discovery. It's kind of like tongues, I guess, if you want to equate it to that. What's your take on the whole light language thing?
Yeah, no, it's very fascinating. Well, actually, I can relate to that. I'm still a little shy because I do sometimes.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't talk about it much. I took a group of students with a friend of mine, Nada, to the pyramids of Bosnia last year, and it was terrific. And I actually had a non-terrestrial experience in the pyramid with a 12-year-old girl. That's not the story, but my friend Nada, she sung twice to the group in light language, and it was just magnificent. What it is codes, and it's light language because it's sounds, but it's not a language like Italian or Chinese or Russian or English. It's and I'm just making that up, but it's like when you start
what it is. Yeah,
exactly. But it's what it is. You're bringing in the energy in, and you're kind of interpreting. So the person or you, the listener, or really the by creator, you are sharing an emotional, heart-based, galactic conversation which transcends words, and it's light through sound. I know. So you can sing it sometimes. Some people will just talk it, and in a way there are no rules. And this is where the population has got to get out of the left brain. This is more right brain. This is more Neptune. This is Saturn, Neptune conjoined in Aries. It's the rule book in this sense has to be thrown away because it doesn't serve us. And it's not about Harvard, Oxford anymore, of the protocol of the PhD. That's a deliberate saying, no, you can't do that unless you pay 10,000, 20, 100,000. No, you can't do that unless you've got that degree. You've gone through the whole system of indoctrination. This is you connecting to the divine source. So the Palladian light language, which I relate to a little bit more with Venus, the Venusian, is going to sound differently, say, from the Arcturian. And it's going to sound different from even someone from the Orion. And there's some good Orions out there. I happen to know a few of them. They're here to really help with the shift. They want away from they want away from the hive.
Yeah, I've had two people do a session for me speaking in that light language, and they were both absolutely different from each other, but it was an incredible experience. And this is through a video that it was done, and it still resonated with me for days. So I find it plausible and absolutely a wonderful way to start exploring with sound too. So, because we could all do it.
We can all do it. So I want a really clear takeaway for your audience. And that would be, if it feels a bit either unfamiliar or awkward, or, you're a bit in your mind still with light language, don't do the light language to begin with. Do some toning.
Right.
Very simple. Start with any note and feel the note consciously come in through the voice, the Mercury, which is the fifth chakra, and allow it to come into the body and play with it. Take it to wherever you want. Keep it in the heart. Take it down to the solar. Take it down to the sex organs, and down to Saturn, the base chakra. Bring it back up through the spine, through the pineal gland, to decalcify it, up through the crown. And as you visualize, if you shut your eyes, you can actually visualize the frequency coming in and out. And as you start to visualize it, some of you will see colors because you'll be more clairvoyant. Some of you more clairaudient, and you'll hear things. You'll get a code. You'll hear. Some of you will be more claircognizant. You'll get suddenly something will just come into you innately. Some of you may be clairsentient, and those are the four clairs, and we are all of them. But some of us tend to have more predispositions to some rather than the others. So start playing with the toning. That's what I'd say. And then once you start adapting to that with tuning forks and stuff, then you start getting some different information, and just be childlike. That's the key.
Wonderful. Now, when you do sound healing and you do it through technology, does it resonate the same way for folks as opposed to when you're in a room with someone? Does it still have the same benefits?
So I'm going to still answer it very honestly as far as I feel at the moment. I am told by people that it does work just as well when they do it through on WhatsApp or FaceTime, not on Zoom for me, but I personally still prefer to do it. Yeah. But that's my natural default. I like the human experience, and I'm always going to say that. It's like painting classes. I still haven't done a painting class. I get asked the whole time to teach online. I probably will one day. But I love doing it, in a studio together, out there painting the landscape. Right. Music on the whole is better, but it does work, especially on this platform. This platform is quite clean with the sound, isn't it? It's quite good.
That's good to know. What are you working on? I mean, I'm gonna show folks some of your website, because
I just painted Donald Trump, actually, the archetype of.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is George's website, and of course I encourage everyone, you have it running across the screen. It's very easy, georgehLewis.com. And let's just take a look at your artwork. Is amazing. You are so gifted and talented. So what should we look at? Like the commissions or?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been on my website for a while. I don't know how easy it is to access it.
I already got your newsletter, but I'm gonna. It wants. Let me just put.
Can you go to the top though? You might got to go to art. Go and look at art at the top.
Okay.
That's probably the best way in.
Okay.
That'll probably be. Does it? Anything else come up? Is that it?
Oh no. Well, yeah, it wants me to subscribe, but that's okay. I mean, it's great getting your newsletter.
Yeah, but a friend of mine has set this up. I'm not very good at technology, so that's rather annoying, though, that it always goes back to that. You should be able to look at the link.
Yeah, there should be an X so that you can X out of it. Well, anyway,
go to the prints. Go to the prints. I wonder whether long.
Oh, prints. Okay. Oh, wow.
That's Donald Trump.
This was something you painted, obviously, and now you sell prints of these. Now you have Donald Trump. Where is he?
That other one, I haven't put it on yet. I mean, I'm not going to sell it quite yet, but the top one, that one, yes, that's Donald Trump crossing the Delaware.
Wow. Oh, I love the little astrological symbol you have. This is beautiful. Oh my goodness. Your artwork is, and you're also an amazing musician as well. So you have some products on here for folks.
Yeah.
And can people schedule like a session with you here as well, or how do they do that?
The best way is just to email me at georgehLewis@me.com, georgehLewis@me.com, or through the website, and I can schedule private readings for them.
Wonderful. So what is, I would love to do that myself. What does that entail? Like, just give us a quick rundown of what a reading would be like.
So I like to look at your soul contract. So the most important thing is to really understand the soul contract through the natal chart. So your natal chart tells you the core ingredients of who you are, where the strengths and weaknesses are, what you're here to learn. And of course, we have freedom as to how we're going to express that soul contract. You know, every zodiac sign has an utterly Christ expression, and every zodiac sign has an utterly demonic expression, depending on how we choose to vibrate it. But the soul contract gives you the nuts and bolts, the essence of, you know, your Jupiter's in that sign. You're going to be strong at that. You're going to be a bit challenged in that. How do you work through that in order to maximize your ability on this planet of ours? And you can see with the transits. So, for example, Uranus has just moved into Gemini. So wherever Gemini is in your chart, Uranus means there's something new that's going to happen. You know, if you've got Uranus on the ascendant, you're going to have a new defining of yourself. You're going to start wearing new clothes. People are going to start to see you differently. You're going to probably, you know, do something very different in your life. If you've got Uranus in the 4th house, you're going to move home. You know, if you've got Uranus in the 7th house, a new relationship's probably coming in.
So is this something that, like, someone sends you their birthday, time of birth, and then you email it back to them, or how does that work?
No, I don't like that. I'm very oral. So people come for me for 60 to 70-minute session, and we talk, and they ask me, I'll give you an example. It's very interesting. Yesterday, I read for a lady, I'm not going to say the name of the company, but she was a Cancer sign. And I suddenly looked at her, I said, are you working with water and salt or something to do with water and salt? And she said, yes. And she owns one of the most famous salt companies in the world. And she's very spiritual.
Oh my God.
And so it's like, you can start to see things. I see the archetypes come alive sometimes. And you know, she's in something new's coming into her life. She's bringing some more spirituality into what she's doing in a big way, manifesting it, and she's probably going to be building healing temples and stuff and supporting people. So it's like very fascinating with Uranus, the new coming into her career, you know.
So do you like prep the chart and then have the meeting? Oh, that sounds great. And it's 60 to 70 minutes typically.
Yeah.
And they could schedule that just by emailing you, right?
And and I do tarot as well.
Oh, is that new? Is that something?
I've always done it. I don't lead with it. It's I've always done it and I love it. I'm very visual. I mean, I'm creating my own tarot deck. I mean, that picture you just put.
I was going to say your deck would be outstanding. It'll probably be all like original artwork too, right?
It's all original. When
you do that, I'm going to have to buy a deck. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's going to be outstanding. So what are you working on right now? Are you creating any? I know you do a lot of, you belong to a lot of different groups and you partake in so many different events, and like, what's happening now in your life?
I mean, I'm still quite nomadic. I mean, the dream would be, you know, eventually to find someone who can support in building a healing center, a healing temple, as I call it.
Oh, yeah.
And it would be my prototype, because I've got some amazing bowls, amazing gongs. I'm going to be building church bells, because when I was a child, I used to put the boys in church bells and gong them, and everyone would say more, more, more. And I, without knowing it, we were all healing each other. And I was doing it at 8 years old. And so it's an interesting one. I think my dream would be to build a prototype healing temple at some point in the next month, a year or so. But up until that time, I'm hosting retreats in Europe. I've got a lovely 2 retreats in Greece at the end of September, early October. I think there's a few spots left still on that. I've got my academy.
The retreats, what are they? Are they healing, healing retreats? Okay.
The healing retreats, I take people to the island of Delos, where Apollo was born, next to Mykonos in Greece in the Aegean. And I do water activation, light activation. I work with a Reiki teacher. She's a Reiki master. She does amazing healing on everyone. I cap the retreats at normally 10 to 11 people, so I keep it very intimate. And it's yummy food, and people become great friends. It's almost like it's like a healers retreat. People are very high frequency, loving souls, and they come together and they become fast friends. And we do a lot of spiritual work, yoga as well. I do astrology talks, tarot readings for everyone, and I do a lot of sound therapy for everyone too.
And how long are these retreats?
Normally 6 days.
Oh, that's good.
Or 7 days. Yeah.
Good. So that's what you're currently doing is a lot of these retreats, basically, where you're going around and doing the healings. That's wonderful, George.
I mean, I'm still doing a lot of talks on different channels and stuff as well, which I love to share that. And then I've got my academy, the georgehlewisacademy.com, which is going very well, where I teach astrology online, alchemy, tarot, and different things. And we do, helping people get through navigate this difficult time.
I always think you have to be good at maths to learn astrology. Is that true? Or
I think it's helpful. I mean, it's very interesting because I wouldn't say math was my focal point or strength at school, but because astrology is so easy for me, it's quite simple math where I just know that 90 degrees, 120 is a trine, 60 degrees is a sextile, opposition's 180. You start just knowing things and you start to see the angles. I think because it's so useful, I don't think maths is a real issue.
Oh, good.
I don't feel that. I mean, I think for astronomy, I do astronomy as well. That's more mathematical because I have like an ephemeris, and sometimes I have an old-fashioned chart where I'm looking to see where things are, and getting the angles right can be a little bit more challenging.
Oh, astronomy's I remember just taking courses in college. It was 90% math. It was a lot of math.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's brilliant. Well, thank you so much. This was absolutely incredible. And of course, we're having George back in, I think, November for a live. We have you scheduled. And of course, I'm going to blast that all over social media. And we're going to have a wonderful topic to discuss. And George, anything in closing you'd like to say to folks based on what we talked about today? Anything of importance?
Just remember you're a beautiful ancient soul having a human experience, and death is totally an illusion, and the dark side wants you to be fearful. That's why they can control you. So give up, release all that fear, and then you're totally free.
Yes, and with it will go the ego where it belongs. Well, thank you so much, George. I absolutely adore speaking to you and being in just in your presence. You have such a wonderful, your artwork always blows me away. I know the last video I did, and I'm going to put the link to that as well. I showed a minute or two of your artwork, and your musical talents are incredible. You're an accomplished musician. And are you doing any events, like musical events, or?
Well, it's actually interesting. I'm going to be producing my first, I don't want to say my first album, but I'm producing some really cool music, which I will be releasing to people, and they can buy it at some point soon. Yeah. Like there'll be like meditations and me playing the piano. I've created some songs and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be brilliant. So are you going to let us know when that's available? Is it going to be on your website?
Yeah, it'll be on my website, but probably not for a few more months.
Oh, you'll have to email me and let me know, because I will blast it for you too, all over.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Lovely to spend time with you today.
Thank you too, George. It's always a blessing to be in your presence. Thank you so much, and I will be in touch soon.
Okay, God bless. Bye-bye.
Take care, dear. Bye-bye. Well, everyone, thank you so much. I absolutely, I don't know what happened there. I absolutely love speaking with George. He's always full of so much wisdom and insight to help us get through these incredibly difficult times. And his unique perspective on the Aquarian age is so profound. And for him to let us know the spiritual implications for humanity gave us a powerful lens to be able to understand what's happening, the global shift that we're all experiencing. So thank you so much, George, again, for sharing your wisdom so we can navigate through this transformative era and embrace like a higher consciousness, which we all have the ability to do. And I'm so very grateful to know him and to be able to experience his work. Like I said, definitely check out his website. He's an amazing talent. And I know it sounds like I'm a fangirl, and that's because I am. I've known George for a few years now and have been following his work, and I'm such a fan. So thank you all so much again. You've been listening to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled, and we air on United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, which is 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. So we air as an FM channel. There are podcasts globally. People forget that this is a global network, and you can see us even on television, on Roku. And there's a lot of positive, exciting changes happening for the network as well, and we'll be announcing those as they happen. Please support all of our other hosts that are on the network. You'll find topics from ancient history, ufology, of course, high strangeness, the paranormal, extraterrestrial, conspiracy theories for those folks that love that as well. Thank you again so much for taking the time to be with us today. God bless, and don't forget to tune in to our Thursday live show at 5 p.m. EST. Thank you again.